Well, welcome to Granny Horse Training. And this is part 2 from May 10th, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my training techniques that I'm using, seeing as some people have stumbled across my videos. I don't have a lot of viewers right now, but thanks to the subscribers that are subscribing, and if you click the notifications that you're watching the training progress of Lacey. She's an orphan foal from the Warm Springs Mustang herd on the reservation, so she's not a BLM Mustang, but she was taken out of the wild at about 3 months. Her mother was dead. She was a foundling or whatever, and they brought her in. The Indians on the reservation brought her in, fed her up, took care of her, and then sold her. And I'm the second owner after that. I bought her last year as a 2-year-old, so now she's 3. So there's been a lot gone on in that last year until we got to this point where I'm now doing YouTube videos. I did some videos on Facebook, but they're pretty, well, they weren't very good. And it's you know what, it's very painstaking starting the clicker training, especially with that, and just a lot of waiting. And boy, if you thought this was boring, you should have seen the beginning. Boring. Let me switch the angle of the camera here. I made this round pen because my round pen with the metal pipes was where I started, and to teach her food manners. And I treated her like a zoo animal because she was too much to handle being with her, and I had to use a lot of negative reinforcement if I was in person with her. A lot of negative reinforcement because she's just all over you, whether I had food or not. If I had food, forget it. She'd take you right down. And this is a young horse too, so I figured I had time in her age to be able to change her ways and be able to do the positive reinforcement and clicker training that I like to do with my animals. And I do combine it with negative reinforcement too, pressure and release training. So, on with the learning theory. There's Skinner's, B.F. Skinner. May have heard of him, look him up. He's got operant conditioning quadrants, also known as the 4 quadrants of learning theory. We've got quadrants that decrease behavior, and we've got quadrants that increase behavior. The behavior decreasers are positive punishment. That's like, getting a little heavy with the halter, making them back up after they've done something. Not making them back up because you want to make them back up, but making them back up after they've done something you didn't like. Then there's things like negative punishment, which would be removing something. Remove something, maybe you were feeding them and they started acting up, so you took the feed away. That would be negative punishment. Maybe you took them out in the field and they didn't go nicely through the gate and they wanted to graze the grass, and you pulled them up and said, no, we're going back through the gate. You're going to come through politely, and then I'll let you eat grass after you let me politely take your halter off. That would be negative punishment because you'd be taking them away from that grass that they wanted so badly. Okay, so those things decrease behavior. When you want to increase behavior, the behaviors you want, use positive reinforcement. That means you're going to add something. The terms of positive and negative, those are meant to be mathematical terms of adding something or subtracting or removing something. So it's not about good or bad, or evil or good or whatever. Not about that. It's about mathematical functions. So positive reinforcement. She does something I want, I use a bridge marker, the click, and then I give her food, something positive. I'm adding something positive. Negative reinforcement. And this is where it gets a little confusing, especially with what I'm doing, because I'm mixing the two. I'm mixing both of these quadrants. Negative reinforcement, when I have her in hand and I use the halter to direct her, either making her do lateral flexions to turn her head or to back up or something like that, and I'm asking her, I'm putting some pressure on her, and when she does what I want, I release the pressure. That's the negative part. You're removing the pressure. And then I click and I add the cherry on top, as Shawna Karrasch says, of adding the positive reinforcement of the food. So I'm adding something. So I'll do something, I'll remove something, they did it good, and I immediately make a marker noise, and then I add something. So they knew that was the right spot. I found that mixing it kind of increases the speed of them learning. But if you don't have the behaviors around them taking food out of your hand and you having food on them, you've got to go back to square one of them touching targets, learning what the click means, and learning good behaviors around the food that they're not mugging you. And that takes time, and it takes time over weeks and months, not a few hours. That's why I have trouble, like I do hoof trimming, and I try to help people teach their horses, but in the end, they got to train them the way they want to train them. And I have helped people teach them to get started in the clicker training, and it's been very beneficial. But if they don't catch on to what I'm teaching them, because you got to teach the owner, then they have to just rely on whatever they know. And personally, I don't care how you train your horse for my hoof trimming, as long as your horse behaves and picks up his feet and I can trim them, I'm happy. Because I don't care. It's up to you. There's nothing inherently better or worse about either positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement or how you're training, as long as you're not being abusive and not making your horse cower in fear. So let me go over quick, so maybe you'll understand when you see other people that have marketed their skills and are famous horse trainers and dog trainers too. All right, and zoo trainers, because horses are just another animal. They're going to act and respond just like other animals. I'll start with the positive reinforcement trainers, also known as clicker trainers. There's Pryor. She wrote the book. Look for the book, Don't Shoot the Dog, and that will explain a lot of what I'm talking about. And if that was your only book you bought, you'd probably do pretty good. Next person down, Pryor actually asked Alexandra Kurland to write a book about clicker training with horses, because she had started back in the 1990s. So I call Alexandra one of the grandmothers of clicker training, because she had started experimenting with the clicker training and her horses, and I actually took lessons from her way back then in the 1990s on riding dressage and using the clicker training in conjunction with it. She has quite a lot of books. She's got a website. Look her up if you want. See if what she does is something that you like. Everybody's an individual, you know. There's no rights and wrongs. You just pick out what works for you. There's another grandmother of clicker training with the horses, and that's Shawna Karrasch. And she was originally a zoo marine animal trainer, and she fell into training with horses, which she really loves, and she does a great job. And she's a little different. She's got a lot more energy than Alexandra Kurland, and so she's got a little different bent, but she's also very excellent. She's got her own website and educational materials and all kinds of stuff. Shawna Karrasch. She's working presently on a farm in New Mexico called Terra Nova Horse Farm. And then there's a grandfather of clicker training right now, I'd say, is Ken Ramirez, and he's been ahead of a lot of zoos. Right now he's like the president of operations of the Pryor Clicker Training Ranch up in Graham, Washington. He's got educational stuff up there. He's really good. Just watch some of your, very admire this man quite a lot, and he's very humble. I mean, geez, I'd love to meet him. We're really close, but hell, I can't leave the farm. I got these sheep and cows and my own horses, and no one else take care of them. Can't leave for the farm long enough to go there. There's another woman there, Jessica Gonzalez. She's also wrote some books on clicker training. She does a horse rescue. It's back east. I'm not sure where it is. But her focus is not on riding. It's on rescuing and changing behavior and taking abused horses and getting them to behave for their care, and maybe a little bit of voluntary riding. But she's very good too if you want to learn more about this. Okay, now we're going to go over to the negative side, and I'll try to write some show notes too, so make sure you click the arrow to look at my show notes, and I'll write this stuff down because you might not be able to read my chicken scratch. So make sure you hit the show notes. We've got negative reinforcement trainers. That's the pressure and release training of Ray Hunt. You ever seen Ray Hunt? Tom Dorrance, Bill Dorrance, Leslie Desmond. She wrote the book with Bill Dorrance, True Horsemanship Through Feel. I highly recommend it. It's a really good book. It's on my shelf, as well as some books from Tom Dorrance and from Ray Hunt. And then there's Buck Brandman. He's made himself quite famous. There's been a movie about him, made about him. He goes around, does clinics, and he would laugh at what I do. You know, hey, I don't care what he thinks. He's got some good ideas. He does some good things. And I certainly have used his training methods before too. And I will pull them out of my pocket when I need them. All right, that's enough said there. Pat Pirelli, another famous showman of horsemanship. He's also using negative reinforcement. I don't care what you think about him personally or his marketing or whatever. He's highly marketed. Is there anything inherently wrong with what he does? I'll leave that up to somebody else to choose. I'm not going to pick on him. Same deal with Clinton Anderson, another negative reinforcement trainer. Not fond of him personally. That's my personal take. John Lyons, another negative reinforcement trainer. I have used his stuff and his methods, and he was one of the long time ago, 20 years ago, of reading his book and using some of his methods to train with. Very good. Anja Barand, she's a negative reinforcement. She's a dressage trainer in Europe, I think Germany probably. Anyways, most of the dressage trainers are also using negative reinforcement. Alexandra Kurland, she likes to focus on dressage riding, and she mixes the clicker training with it to enhance the performance of the horses. And Shawna Karrasch does that too. She does more jumping and stuff like that, but she uses the clicker training to enhance that performance using the negative reinforcement training methods. And then there's Warwick Schiller. He's quite famous on YouTube and Facebook and on the internet now. He's got tons of videos out there, and he's good too. You know, I watch him sometimes. He's good. But again, he's a negative reinforcement trainer. He is gradually bringing in more positive reinforcement techniques. He's not gone as far as I do as using them to rehabilitate bad behaviors. So that about says it on that. I hope I've answered your questions, but it's pretty hard to put maybe 20 or 30 years of experience into 15 minutes or less. So I hope you have a good Mother's Day today. And the horses are gone. They've gone back to the barn. It's hot, and I'm almost done here. My timer's gonna be up. So thanks for watching. Click the subscribe and then click the notification button so you'll see the next video I put out. I will be doing more animal husbandry stuff too, like injection training eventually. We got some rain coming up this week, so if I do have time, I'll be doing something in the barn. And then click the like button, then I know you liked it. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.